Gracias for tuning in to another episode of Keep Trucha, where we showcase Latin influencers and creators. I'm Christian, my partner Abel is on production, and tonight we have another special guest, Emilia. If you could please go ahead and just give us a brief bio.
Hi, so my name is Emilia Cruz, or you can just call me Cruz. My friends like to call me that. But I was born in San Diego, California. We lived in Tijuana for a little bit, but we moved to Simi Valley when I was, around 3 years old. So I've been there ever since then. And I'm an artist. I primarily paint, and yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time and coming out with us. When did you start painting, and were there any influences, whether it's movies or family member growing up, anything that kind of sparked that interest?
Yeah, so I've been drawing ever since I can remember. But painting, I think I started maybe around 8 or 9 years old, and that was because of my aunt. She noticed early on that I really liked making art. So, whenever she got the chance, she would put me into any type of classes, and she put me into a painting one, and I loved it, honestly. And what's it called? She constantly would introduce me to different artists. So definitely Frida, and there's artists like Modigliani and whatnot. But another huge influence, I have to say, was my grandpa. He was an artist himself, as well as an architect, and he mainly worked with stone. So he would carve into stone and make sculptures out of them. So cantera, I think it was called. So yeah.
Oh, so you have a little bit of history with family then.
Yeah, and I actually, before he passed away, he lived in San Miguel de Allende. So I got to visit him a couple times, and one of those times I actually got to see him working. So that was an amazing experience. Just I could sit there for hours and just watch him go at it. So yeah, I was really fortunate to get able to experience that.
Yeah, awesome. And if you could describe your style to a complete stranger, how would you describe what your style is?
I was thinking about that. I was like, darn, that's really hard for me, actually. I'd say I'd fall into, I guess, the more realistic category. Definitely figurative, and I love portraiture. And I say realistic, but I also kind of dive into these fictional worlds, I guess. So if you look at my paintings, they're someone said it best. I like the term they use. They said magical realism, and that stuck in my head ever since that. I'm like, oh, I like that. I kind of do. I pull from things that I see, and obviously, I copy that, but I also dive into my own imagination and whatnot. So
yeah, you can definitely see.
Yeah, and definitely a lot of colorful work, but also eerie at the same time. So. Yeah, I have to kind of think about that a little bit more, but that's basically.
No, that's a good description. But when you go through painting, obviously, I'm sure every single painting is different. But is there any similarities in terms of how you approach a painting, or how you actually the process that you take?
Yeah, definitely. So I have a few different ways I like to start. Definitely when I'm in a hurry, I like to keep a folder of photos that I've taken of my friends or my family, and I'll go from there. So I'll pull out a photo and just, it's more of an intuitive process in that case. So I'll pull the photo out and I'll start drawing it. And then little by little, I'll just let my thoughts flow and add things as the drawing goes on. But then there's also paintings that I've done where it's based off of a story that I create in my head. So I don't know if you've seen those turquoise mosaic mask pieces that I've made. So that one I kind of created as that. So, I'll start the story and then kind of go from there and get references that will help me depict the story and whatnot. So, but yeah, either way, it starts from a photo reference, I draw it, and then I transfer it onto the panel and kind of just let it happen along the way. So
yeah, awesome. And I'm sure it's different for every painting, but what is it that you kind of overall generally want or hope that people feel or experience when they look at your work?
So definitely number one is I I'm very much about representation. So a lot of my work, I do, want it to be specifically women of color, people of color, and for me growing up, I I noticed at a young age that a lot of movies or the artwork that I would look at, or just even my dolls, like none of them looked familiar, or none of them just even looked like me. And that's something, we want as a little kid, or just even now, we like to look at things and say, oh, that looks, I like that looks like me, or something like that. So, I definitely love that about my work now, that I have people coming up to me and saying, oh, this looks like my niece, or this looks like my prima. And I think that's really cool. But also, I definitely try to pour a lot of my own self into my paintings. So it's really nice, when people tell me like, oh, I can feel a lot of emotion in this. And it's nice because I do put a lot of, my own experiences and thoughts into it. So to know that others can see that is a pretty good feeling too. So,
yeah. And one of the biggest things that I see in a lot of your work is your sister, and I hope I don't mess her name up, Camilla.
Oh, Camila, yeah.
Yep. So I've noticed
Camila,
that
yeah.
A lot of your work, and I'm sure, like you said, growing up, there was that kind of missing, or that lack of identity that you kind of were able to look out and see. Is it kind of like, is it like really kind of, I don't want to say emotional, but like cool, I guess, for you to be able to create something that your sister can kind of look up to. And then not only that, but also for other young women, who are growing up and now they can kind of see, artwork that depicts their life, and then kind of relate to it, they kind of identify with it. What's your message to young women, basically?
Oh, well, yeah, I love that, honestly. I actually had, at my last art show that I had, this mom, she came up to me with her daughter, and they were both just really emotional and thanking me and saying, thank you. I love that you paint your sister, because I have a little girl, and it's amazing to be able to bring her to places like this now and show her like, hey, look, there's someone that looks like you. And and luckily my sister, she came out completely opposite than I was at her age, and she's really confident, but I definitely had a lot of self-esteem issues growing up and whatnot. And I definitely try to tell her all the time, like, do not let others make you feel bad about something that you can't even control. Like, I think it's just, there's a lot of negativity out there, but at the same time, I am happy that she, or not just even her, but I feel like a lot of little girls are starting to see more artwork that represents them, or just in general, and social media and all that. There's at least I've been able to come across a lot of more, positive images and whatnot. So I definitely, I always try to advise people to, specifically women of color, to stick together, because that's something like I didn't do a lot before. I would hide in my room and not go out to events and whatnot. And I'm definitely more of a hermit, an introvert, but it's helped me so much grow in this past year, just, being able to go out to events. And now I have a group of friends. We're all, artists. I just recently had a show that included all women, and it was just amazing, that sort of like energy and vibe that we brought, and the fact that, we were all, supporting each other. And I don't know, there's something like really, strong about that, powerful.
Definitely. And just kind of on a lighter note, tell us something about yourself that maybe not too many people know.
There's a lot of weird things. Like, I have, I'm trying to think. Oh, it's something I don't tell a lot of people, actually, that I used to do. I was actually a tattoo apprentice for a little bit. And this was like years ago though, and I haven't picked up my machine since then, but I was practicing for a little while, and this hand, actually, I call it my practice hand. because I did most of the tattoos except for the writing. Someone else did, but yeah, a lot of people, point out, oh, who did this or something like that. I'm like, oh, that was me. Like, I was practicing though. I haven't done it since. So yeah, I don't know. That's one thing. I'll say the other weird things maybe later.
Well, no, and I definitely appreciate your time and you coming out. Just on a last question here, your goals for for this next year and as far as career, maybe personally, just anything.
I think in general, just continue to grow. I did a lot of learning this last year. I was thrown into a lot of things that I wasn't comfortable with, but I'm very happy I was able to do them. And definitely, like I said, continue to connect with others and continue to go to events, vending events and group shows and all that, just meeting more artists and hoping to continue to grow this community that I feel like a lot of us have started or are part of. So, but yeah, those are the main things. I have a long list of goals. But
Awesome. We'll make sure to put your Instagram, handle in the show notes and everything, and so that way people can kind of follow you. But yeah, thank you again for your time, and let us know if there's anything that we can do to help support you.
Thank you. No, thank you for inviting me and having me.
Definitely. Have a good night.
Thank you. You too.
All right, guys. Thank you guys again for tuning in. We'd appreciate any support that we can get. Likes, shares, comments. Please, if you like the show, subscribe and check out our gear. We got some new stuff that just came out. The website's www.lafronterasupply.com. We'll put that in the show notes as well. And follow Emilia Cruz for all her future endeavors. We'll put that in the show notes as well. And stay tuned for next episode.